Hello, everyone, and welcome back to There and Back Again, Friend's Journey. Did I get it right this time?
You did. Great
Okay,
job.
good. Two
Second
times in a
time.
row. I'm doing great. So,
Yeah.
so that's awesome. So,
Put in a good day's work. I think we're done here.
yes. So, well, the last episode was an extended edition. This is just simply a short little video clip from Lord of the Rings version of. Because our first episode was like an hour. The last one was like over an hour and a half, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So,
right
yeah.
around.
What's this one going to be? Who knows? You got to stay tuned to find out. So,
We don't know.
yeah, we're not real sure you too. So, but we certainly will not be hasty about it, as one would say. So, oh gosh, I'm
Why
out of
do you
time. What's that?
Why do you say that,
Why do I
Father
say?
Jared?
Well, that's because we got some not customized mugs from Etsy that I found that have "Don't be hasty" on them. A line from Treebeard and the Two Towers, right? Isn't it Two Towers? Yeah, I think. Yeah, because like Merry and Pippin are trying to push him, and he says,
Yeah.
"Don't be hasty," and and both Grace and I kind of have a tendency to be slow moving at times.
Yeah. I think I am more than you, so.
Sure,
Because you've definitely got more of a, yeah.
I have a fast walk.
You have a fast walk, and you just kind of like have more of like a, what do I want to say? Determination
Yeah,
in general. And so, but
I think you're pretty determined, but I think determination's maybe a friendly way of like saying jerk or direct or something like that. So
that's not what I meant.
I know, I'm kidding.
Why'd you have to say that when I had a mouthful?
That was kind of intentional. Not gonna lie. I was kind of hoping that. Well, I guess that could have been sprayed all over me, so that would have been awkward. But
That would have been kind of funny.
that would have been funny. But then
We'll see about next time.
you still got water left in that cup. That's so. We'll see. Yeah. Were we going to tell the backstory to this?
Yeah.
Okay.
You
So
can.
why do I have to tell it? I've been talking the entire time.
Okay, fine. I'll tell it. It's just that you're going to remember the details better than I am.
Okay.
So we were getting ice cream one time, and we were standing in line.
Yes.
What did I miss already?
Well, so no, we were getting ice cream, and the other detail is that your sister and then also nephew. Are there too. Mm-hmm. So we're getting ice cream, and her sister and her nephew, who is also kind of known, so he also likes to take his time as well. So Finn is taking his time, and they are ordering, but then Grace and I are back there having a conversation, and then. Should we mention her by name? Do you think she cares?
I don't think she would care.
So Audrey is with Finn, and they order their ice cream, and so we're supposed to go next. And I forget exactly what Audrey says, but she's like, you guys can order now. And I think we're like, yeah. And like, we kind of ignored her. And we didn't order until like the employees there and the place is packed. So we're like taking up everybody's time. And so it took us forever to just order in the first place.
Yeah.
And did not realize that Audrey is upset with us. And then got her ice cream, or no.
What happened? Oh, so we were waiting for one of the things because we ordered something for Dad. The story's getting ridiculous, but we ordered something for Dad, and it was taking them a long time to make it. And so we were just standing at the counter. I thought, that's just the thing to do. But Audrey's like, guys, grab your ice cream and sit down. I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was something like that.
Yeah, something like that, because there was other people's like orders were coming up while we were still waiting on your dad's. And she's like, you can pick up your... And so finally we did, and we sat down, but that's not the end of it. So at the very end, I realized that Audrey is like really frustrated that we're taking so long because like she's like trying to get stuff moving, and then like so we're both trying to like, then finally I begin to get hasty, but then like as we're leaving, then Grace decides to take her good old time with wiping everything off of Finn's like taking
Finn
his
was covered in chocolate.
yeah, so she's like turning his arm, like making sure she got everything off beforehand, and you could just tell like Audrey's about to lose her mind. So from that point on, then I immediately thought of just the next day, I sent a gift that just had, don't be hasty, Master Hobbits. And that's where this comes from is, we're both just taking our good old time, and we like to take our good old time while we're talking about Lord of the Rings. So that's where all that comes from. So ridiculous story of getting ice cream, which is the one thing I will take my time for. I do love ice cream a lot.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Probably people who are lactose intolerant.
But besides people who literally can't enjoy it.
That's true. It is one of the greatest comfort foods.
Yeah.
Like, ice cream will always make a day better, you know?
Like peanut butter.
Like peanut butter.
Also, if you're not allergic.
So now, so this is there. I'm sure there's something out there for you, people who are allergic to nuts and. Plenty. There's plenty. There's a lot of good food in the world. So.
Truly.
This is turning into a very Hobbit-like conversation, by the way.
This is. What kind of plants can we talk about? So anyway, Father Jared got us these wonderful mugs.
Yes.
And
the official mugs of There and Back Again.
Yeah. And we are not being paid to say this. Etsy is not paying us.
It's true. Tree beard and wisdom. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's what it says at the bottom. Sorry. Probably need to have a close-up of this. So.
Oh gosh, really close up.
All right. Well, since we're beating that dead horse pretty good. So and if you're sticking with us, thank you. So yeah.
Thank you and bless you.
Yeah, and bless you. That's true. So
yeah.
If you stick around to the end, I'll give you a blessing, maybe. So. Oh, I guess speaking of that, I guess I can lead us in prayer.
Oh yeah, do that.
We can start. Then we can jump into today's topic. Is that too soon? Do we need to talk about ourselves, or you think we're good?
I think we're good. Although I do have a question.
Oh, that's true. After the prayer.
Yeah.
Or do we do that? After the prayer. Okay.
First.
In the Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty and ever-living Father, we give you thanks again this month for the many gifts that you bestowed upon each and every one of us. We thank you especially as this evening we discuss the topic of friendship within Lord of the Rings, that you will help us to appreciate this great gift that you have given to us in this life, most especially friendship with your Son, Jesus Christ, with his Blessed Mother, and with all the saints, but also the friendships we are to treasure in this life, which are signs to us of your goodness, of your care, of your love, and of the assurance of hope for eternity. We ask you might guide our conversation this evening, that we might say what may help those out there and say only the good things that people need to hear. And we ask this all in your name. Amen.
Amen.
In the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
So what is the question for this month?
So the question, can I tell the backstory?
Okay, sure.
That I kind of told you, which was just that I knew I was going to be entrusted with asking a question this month. This is how we like to start the podcast, with a question. And I was thinking about it yesterday. I'm like, in anything that, first of all, wasn't coming up with much.
Yes.
Second of all, what I was coming up with was just like, meh. Like, I'm not excited about that at all. And so today I had a few minutes in the church, and I was just praying, for a few different things. But one of them was like, Lord, please just give me a question that I can ask on the podcast tonight. And then, I kid you not, like moments later, the most ridiculous idea comes to mind. And I laughed, and I looked at the Lord, and I said, that's funny, I'm going to do that.
Well,
so here it is. If you could choose, like a hair type or hairstyle from any of the like different species of, people, like elf, dwarf, hobbit, human, or man, in the Lord of the Rings, to rock yourself, like to have on your own head, which one would you choose?
Oh, man. Oh.
You were not expecting that, were you?
No. There is something I kind of like about like the long greasy hair of like the men that's like kind of like rugged in its own way. Mm-hmm. But if I'm like going with, but that's like sounds like it will probably be unpleasant like to actually wear. Yeah. So if I'm actually going to be honest, it'll probably be like something like the Hobbits, to have like a sweet kind of curly fro kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
So and also because I did have like longer hair about that length in high school, which I really did like having. Not going to do that ever again, so don't tempt me. But yeah, but I think definitely Hobbit.
Hobbit, okay.
Yeah. What about you?
That's a solid choice. Well, I'm kind of torn between Hobbit or Elf. What?
Wait, like Hobbit women or like would you want kind of the...
Well, yeah, like the Hobbit women. Like all the hobbits have curly hair.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be bad for like a Hobbit man because even their hair is kind of longer. But yeah. But I can't decide. I'm kind of leaning towards, well, yeah, I can't decide because I do really, really like curly hair. But I also, I told you it was ridiculous.
No, I love, like, this is actually just a funny conversation because I actually do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do miss my old hair.
Yeah.
So I'm realizing right now, this is weird.
Yeah, this is weird. Didn't know what kind of things were going to be brought up.
Oh, yeah.
But I also do really like the elves' hair. Like, just so long and just so much and just so, like, wonderful. Like, I love, Arwen and, and even, like, Galadriel's hair is, like, powerful. Yeah. So, yeah.
Powerful. That's a great word.
What's this? There's a story, you've shared it before, about she gives her hair
to Gimli.
What is the symbolism behind that, or what's the result of that?
Well, that's such a big deal because, so Galadriel is like one of the oldest elves in Middle-earth. Okay. And there was a great elf master, Fëanor, who actually asked her 3 times for one strand of hair, and she denied him each time because she could see the pride within his heart that he wanted to he didn't want to like treasure her hair. He wanted her hair to make like these beautiful, like to make something really, really beautiful that would like glorify himself. Mm-hmm. And then actually like you've heard of the like prelude to Lord of the Rings called the Silmarillion. Mm-hmm. That's because Fëanor actually makes three Silmarils, 3 jewels that are the most valuable, the most precious of all the jewels in Middle-earth. And that's kind of, it stands at the center of like a lot of the Silmarillion. Mm-hmm. And so he actually makes those in imitation of her hair. So the significance of whenever Gimli simply asks once, in all humility, and he asks for 1 strand and she gives him 3, an indication of Fëanor who asked 3 times for 1 strand of hair. Mm-hmm. Now Gimli simply asks once for 1 strand and she gives him 3 strands. Mm-hmm. So it's significant that she must have saw something different because she has this gift of like being able to stare into your soul essentially, that she looked into Gimli and she saw something different from what she saw in Fëanor, which is significant because the elves and dwarves don't like each other and Fëanor was an elf.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a big deal that she decides to give 3 strands of her hair to him. Mm-hmm. And that she didn't give it to one of her own kind. Mm-hmm.
She saw he had better intentions.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for refreshing my memory.
No, that's fine.
Huh. Yeah. Okay.
So there's the significance of hair in Lord of the Rings. So it does have relevance to the whole thing.
Okay. If I could, now this is not possible, but if I could mix Hobbit and elf hair, like that's the dream.
What does that even look like then?
Long and curly.
Okay.
So if you have long and curly hair, you are blessed indeed.
Grace has a holy jealousy of your hair.
I don't know if it's holy, but all right, moving along. What are we talking about?
We're talking about friendship. So yes, so delighting in each other's gifts. So Grace also delights in your long hair. So
yes.
So yeah, because I think in Lord of the Rings, something that I've always kind of noted is like the entire story is about not obtaining something as it is in a lot of stories. So like you go on a mission to find the Holy Grail or to, find the fair maiden or whatever it is in a lot of the stories. Like you're trying to find some sort of treasure, right? In Lord of the Rings, something precious has been found, but it's also something evil. And so it's actually the giving back of that item, that treasure, that is actually the central. So it's not about taking, it's actually about giving. But then also beyond that, then like the only thing that a lot of the members of the Fellowship, besides Aragorn, who obviously obtains Arwen, not obtains, but he earns, like their love is now being able to be brought to fruition after he has completed his task. Mm-hmm. the exception, that's like what everybody else gets is friendship. Is friendships out of it. Mm-hmm. Because in the book, Samwise is merely like merely like a gardener for Frodo. Like a faithful gardener. Mm-hmm. But not much more. Not much more, really, at the beginning of the book. Mm-hmm. So they become friends through this kind of mission, right? And he's obviously very faithful to Frodo, so that's why he goes with him in the beginning even. So and so you can kind of see that as at the center of the story, and even Legolas and Gimli, that's like a big deal that they become friends throughout the whole thing. And so, and so you see those things build up, and you see like Merry and Pippin befriend Éomer in the books. You see them befriend Faramir, and you see them befriend all kinds of like people, like men from these other races throughout the books and throughout the movies. So the one thing they get is friendship. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it must be worth something. Worth a whole lot, because everything that they went through.
Yes, is worth it.
And something you said there when you were talking about like the ring, and that it wasn't about, so like the mission wasn't about taking something, but about giving it back, giving something precious back. And although like in this case it was something evil, but I was just thinking like that's the same thing with friendship, is like it's a precious thing that we have to give back to the Lord and see how he is glorified in it. And and just.
So giving friendship back to the Lord, what do you mean by that?
I guess in some ways like surrendering. Yeah. Like, what do I want to say? The future, I guess.
The future. Yeah.
Surrendering the future, and surrendering what comes of the friendship, I guess, and that it is the Lord's. Yeah. And so just like, I don't know, I'm just thinking now of like when, parents have children, like ultimately the child belongs to the Lord, and they're just, they're just like on loan. Yeah. Or is that the word?
I think that can fit.
Not quite right. But they're, and then they're just to give their child back to the Lord. And so, I don't know, just think, there's like a part of surrender. Yeah. And the outcome.
Yeah, the surrendering and the outcome. Surrendering the results, it's always something I talk about. Mm-hmm. Like we simply have to do the right thing, and the results, whatever they be, we just have to accept. Like that is an outcome. Yeah, because like the ends do not justify the means in the mind of a Catholic. And so the means are like everything. Like how we get there is what it's all about. And I think that's something that people always like, well, they should have taken the eagles. And it's like, you missed the entire point. Like it is about the entire journey. Mm-hmm. It's about how they get there and the sacrifices they had to make for one another in order to like complete that mission.
And that's what friendship.
It's about. And that friendship, like that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
that's true. That's a very freeing reality.
Yes.
Is that like surrendering the result, like just do what's right.
Yeah.
And it will be okay.
It will be okay. Oh. Like, yeah. But that's not easy.
No.
Yeah.
No. But I think it gives a certain amount of peace, because we also always want, we want success in the way that we think that it should come, especially if we're putting a lot of effort into something, and like, so it's just the idea of, or the reality of, all you got to do is the right thing, which is hard.
It is.
It is hard.
Yeah, that is very true. And so like, as you mentioned that about, like putting in that effort, I think that's, that's kind of like where I was going to eventually get to. But like, I think so often, like on one end, it can feel like we're putting all the effort into like some friendships that we may have. And I think there was, as I was like researching for this and watching some clips from the movie, like a comment that somebody said is like, we all want a friend like Sam, but we but what we forget is that we should probably also be a friend like Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Like we all want that friend, but are we willing to be that friend? And that's one of those testaments to our own willingness within friendships is that, yeah, at times and it doesn't mean that people don't. It's just like sometimes it may seem that people don't care. And you can see that with like Sam's willingness to kind of like bear with Frodo even in the difficulty of like some things as like the ring begins to take greater and greater hold on him. That Sam like doesn't understand how to help Frodo, but he's like willing to still stick with them. It's not until Frodo forcefully pushes him away that he actually turns away. But then even whenever he realizes that he and Frodo have been duped by Gollum, not Smeagol, by Gollum. Made that clarification. Does that work?
Thank you.
Okay, good. Don't want to offend Grace's love for Smeagol, so I make sure I call him Gollum. Gollum tricks, and whenever he realizes that, then he turns back and seeks Frodo. And so I think that that's an important element of looking at that. And even then you see like after the destruction of the ring, then Frodo's able to like once again comfort Sam as he's sad about the fact that he's not going to get to marry Rosie, Yeah, right. Rosie. Sorry, I want to make sure I got the right name. So
correct.
Correct. Thank you. So so that's a good insight. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, and I know that as you're talking about just like the effort, putting in the effort, something you commented on in our preparatory email. Father Jared's really good about helping me prepare, and so he'll send an email with some clips and different ideas. Or maybe it was on the outline itself, but it was just about friendship is more about intentionality than it is proximity.
Yes.
And so that goes back to making an effort.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking like it's pretty like oopsie. It's pretty
oopsie.
Like it's a pretty obvious thing, but just like thinking about like how we can be in like close proximity with people but still feel far away.
Yeah.
And just still lack that like intimacy that a friendship can have. And so so you're right, it's about intentionality.
Yeah. Because I sometimes think about that, like now we obviously have an ability to connect with people all over the world, like at any given time through phone, FaceTime, texting mostly, but I think that's, like all those kind of ways that we can connect. It's fascinating to me that like during World War II that a lot of wives didn't see their husbands and might have been lucky to get like a letter from them. Like there was a lot to send and like ships got sunk and like all that stuff, like all those lines of communications. And yet they were all like the fact that they were faithful to each other through like that there were some, like obviously it probably wasn't universal, but like a lot of them were faithful to each other throughout that experience is just like mind boggling to me, like there's not like, they're not even like able to call each other. Like writing letters is like the most that they can do. And those letters probably took months upon months to get there. And then you had to write one back and it took months or months for that one to get there. So to me, that's just like so amazing that obviously it's marriage, but it's also marriage is like highest form or one of the highest forms of friendship in this life, endured even without like not only just like physical distance, but even like the ability to communicate with one another.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of amazing. So.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
What's that expression? Distance makes the heart grow fond.
Yeah, something like that.
That must have been at play there.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
Yeah, dang. That is amazing.
Yeah. You have many points there. You wrote down much more than I did.
I do. I'm not sure where I want to go. So at the there's a lot of really great clips, all right, in The Lord of the Rings where friendship is highlighted in some very beautiful and sometimes leading to tears
Yes.
moments.
Yes. Tearjerkers.
Tearjerkers. Thank you. Yep. Thanks. It's been a long day.
Yes. Don't we both know it? Yes. Don't we know it? So
Yeah.
long podcast, long day.
Yeah. Lose my mind.
Yep.
It's called a tearjerker.
Yes.
But yeah, like there's this scene towards the end of The Return of the King where Merry is like lying on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And Pippin finds him. And like Merry says, I knew you'd find me.
Yes.
And I just think that's a really beautiful. Yeah. So I just kind of took some notes on like different clips and then what they speak to about friendship.
Yeah.
And so like I think in that one, friendship finds the other person. And
I like that.
Yeah. And even like it gets even kind of more intense and more relatable perhaps. Because so you see when he says like, I knew you'd find me, like
Yeah.
he had no doubts in him.
Yeah.
Until there was still a doubt, because then he said, are you going to leave me?
Yes.
And so it's like their friendship was strong, but there was just still this, the darkness of doubt still lingering in his mind of like, okay, now that you found me, but surely you're going to leave.
Yeah.
And I would understand why, you know? Yeah.
What do you mean by surely you would know why?
Would understand why, because yeah, that's a good question. Maybe in some ways it's like being in Mary's position. I wanted to say like Pippin. But like being in Mary's position, like thinking of all the effort that Pippin already had to go to just to find him laying there like in poor condition. Like, all right, you've already been through a lot just to find me here. And like, will you be able to help me? So like, why would you stay? You probably have better things to do. I don't know. That's a good question though, because yeah. What do you think?
Well, I was going to ask, so I think that is like a good point, that friendship finds, but then also like whenever we are found, we sometimes doubt then like that if our friends find us in the battlefields of life and they see like where we're at, like, are they going to want to stick around?
Yeah.
Like, you found me and here I am. Look at how broken I am. Mm-hmm. So I guess I was thinking about how that applies to just even our own response, that we want to be found, but then when we're found where we are, we're like, well, see, I'm on the bad side of town. You're probably not going to want to stick around now.
Yeah.
You know?
It's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
It puts you in a really undesirable position.
Yes.
Or at least these are the things we tell ourselves.
Yeah. Uncomfortable position, dangerous. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. And I like that you said the battlefield.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So you would think, I would understand why you would want to leave this battlefield, and you have my permission.
Yes.
But I really don't want you to.
Yes.
But I'm too afraid to say that.
Yeah.
Too afraid to say that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But then, of course, Pippin assures him, like, no, Merry, I'm staying right here. I'm going to look after you.
Yes.
That's a really huge moment in their friendship.
It is. It is. That's a beautiful moment.
Mm-hmm. One of the many.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Friendship
French finds. Yeah, I'm going to have to remember that one. That's a great line.
Yeah. And then I guess maybe kind of going off of that, like the battlefield kind of imagery and just being friendship finds, but it also stays. The scene at the end of The Return of the King when Frodo says, I'm glad to be with you, Samwise Gamgee.
Here at the end of all things.
Here at the end of all things. And it's just kind of this recognition of like, everything is wrong.
Yeah.
Besides the fact that you're here with me.
Yeah.
Like everything everything's wrong.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're here with me gives me cause for joy.
Yeah.
And just like the solidarity of that, and just that also like speaks to that lie of, well, I understand why you would want to leave.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Here, yeah. I also, like, I guess I've got to give, like, I've always loved the movies, but in particular, like, looking at some of those scenes, like that scene, and then even the scene at the end of The Return of the King, to where it's like, Frodo wakes up and it's like very, like it's kind of ridiculous, you know? It is.
It's amazing.
It is ridiculous. It is amazing. But I got to give it to Peter Jackson for having, like, the guts to make and include that in the film. Because I think we've so given ourselves over to, like, false intimacy that he actually showed, like, some really great, like, in those, like, that image that you, like, when we talked about with Merry and Pippin, like, that's like a really weird thing for, like, a guy, and, like, just saying in, like, the modern context, not that it actually is weird, that it's wrong.
Right. It's
but, like,
unusual.
It's unusual to have somebody actually be willing to say, like, admit that, like, I knew you'd find me. So, like, admitting that, like, I knew you would be faithful. And then also admitting, like, you're not going to leave me, are you? And then somebody saying, like, I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to take care of you. Like, those are some pretty, like, vulnerable words that they share with each other. And then even Frodo and Sam at the end, like, I'm glad, like, whenever Sam's, like, lamenting that he always wanted to marry, that he wants to marry Rosie, and he's not going to, he thinks now that they destroyed the ring and that mountain is blowing up, that's never going to happen. Reasonable assumption.
Yeah.
But then to, like, admit, like, I wanted to marry her and I would have married her and that's who I would have married. So, like, this very vulnerable place, like this thing that he's probably been treasuring and carrying with him the entire way.
And has given him a lot of strength.
He now opens up about. And then Frodo embraces and said, I'm glad to be here. Like, yeah, that sucks, man. But I'm glad that you're here with me at the end of all things. And so, again, like, those are beautiful moments of intimacy. And then, like, the joy and, like, the silliness that people, like, can interpret from that final scene to after Frodo wakes up after that moment is, I think, a testament to the fact that, like, one thing that, like, kudos to Peter Jackson for including that stuff. Because, again, that probably took some guts to include, like, those intimate moments, because we don't like to admit those things about ourselves, that we have those doubts. And so I think, yeah, sharing that stuff is just, like, as I was watching, I was like, oh man, like, this makes me uncomfortable, but I also realized, like, this is really, really good. Like, we all kind of want this, but we're all afraid to admit that we have a desire for those kind of friendships and the ability to be vulnerable in that way. So, yeah. Shout out to Grandma Kinsella again.
Shout out to my grandma for commenting on our many yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do just, like, a comment on the that kind of silly scene, but that amazing scene when the Fellowship is reunited besides Boromir. Sorry.
Sure.
And, like, yeah, just, like, the joy, and just, like, yeah, Merry and Pippin are just, like, losing their minds the entire time. If you notice, like, as each person comes in, like, one by one, they're still losing their minds, just can't get over the fact that Frodo's alive and that they're together again. But then, like Frodo kind of makes, like, a special face, or, like, has this expression on his face for each person. But then, like, when it gets to Sam, it's just, like, just this long gaze, and it's, like, a small little smile, because it's just, like, oh, what we've been through.
Yes.
And, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just really beautiful.
It is.
Watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great. And then even, like, that final, like, I don't know why that always gets me a little bit, like, at the Grey Havens, whenever Frodo gives, like, Sam the final kiss on the forehead, it's just like, oh man. Ooh.
I know.
That's, like, just, like, such a power, again, like, credit to Peter Jackson for portraying good, authentic friendships in this, like that are like still very real and like not just like the serious side of it, but even like Merry and Pippin like dancing on top of a table and like singing some drinking song after they won the Battle of Isengard. Like, you know, like the ridiculousness of that whole thing, but like just the goodness of that. Yeah, I think that's something that as I was watching these clips, I'm like, man, like I knew it was all in there, but I forgot like how much it was included within that. So
yeah. Lots of great moments. Yeah, that scene at the end is just like, take my heart and rip it in 1,000 pieces.
Yes.
But in a good way.
In a good way. Yeah. Which is interesting because that's actually, I think, one of the videos I kind of sent. I don't know if I sent the first one in that collection, but there's like a video to where like one of the first things he mentions is Lord of the Rings is not just like good escapism. It touched our hearts, and it broke our hearts is actually the word that he uses. And it touched on something so real. And I think this is one of those elements, is just that element of friendship that was so highly, highly valued by Tolkien himself. Yeah.
That's true. It's not like other movies that just allow you to kind of like, escape reality, but it kind of touches you in a place where you're able to face reality even more than maybe you ever have.
Yeah.
Which might be a stretch. The gospel comes first.
Well, the gospel comes first. But in the sense that, like, I think really good stories don't merely, like, allow us to escape or, like, distract us, but help to draw out what's actually going on inside of us and help to make us more aware of that reality and help us to probably accept those realities. Yeah. Good timing.
Yeah, very good timing. What do you got? You got something?
So again, like this has been one of my little piece. So this is like Father Jared segments, is to pull like a scene from the book that's not necessarily in the movie to kind of. So in the book, the fellowship isn't like formed like just out of nothing. Like what happens is Frodo agrees to take the ring. And then obviously like very quickly afterwards, Gandalf agrees to go with them. And they say, well, obviously Sam needs to go with them as well. But then it kind of begins to like be built up, and it's like, okay, well, we need to send somebody for the dwarves. And it's like, well, Gimli will go because and so he'll go. And then Legolas, who's here from Mirkwood, will go as well. And like this is all kind of being decided over time, because for months after Frodo decides to go, a lot of Aragorn, like a lot of Elrond's sons, are like going around Rivendell to make sure that all the riders are gone, and none of them survived, like at the ford, to make sure that they're gone, so that way they can like have a clearer path, or like a safer path. And so while they're doing this, they're forming this, and so then they decide that Aragorn's going to go, and they decide that Boromir's going to go, and they decide that they should have 9 members of the Fellowship for the 9 to kind of like counteract the 9 ring race. So that's why 9's a significant number there. So they decide upon 9, so that leaves 7. So Elrond's trying to debate who the last 2 members of the Fellowship should be. And so he's like saying, well, maybe I could send Glorfindel, who's like this great, powerful elf lord, who's like actually the one that gets in the book is the one who brings them from, not Arwen, but him is the one who comes with the horse.
Oh, okay.
So he plays
Weathertop.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So after that point, he's the one that comes and finds them.
Gotcha.
And so Elrond wants to send back Merry and Pippin to kind of warn the Shire that all this is happening, right? And so that's kind of the setup. And then this is what then Merry and Pippin immediately Pippin. But that will leave no place for us, cried Pippin in dismay. We don't want to be left behind. We want to go with Frodo. That is because you do not understand and cannot imagine what lies ahead, said Elrond. Neither does Frodo, said Gandalf, unexpectedly supporting Pippin, nor do any of us see clearly. It is true that if these hobbits understood the danger, they would not dare go, but they would still wish to go, or wish they dared, and be shamed and unhappy. I think, Elrond, that it is in this matter, it would be well for us to trust rather in their friendship than to great wisdom. Even if you chose for us an elf lord such as Glorfindel, he could not storm the dark tower, nor open the road to the fire by the power that is in him.
That's an awesome quote.
Yes. Like Gandalf just knocking it out of the park. Yeah, just like a great character. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just love that. Now, I think it's, again, movie, so you need to like, you're cut for time. So you need to like pull this together and make it very dramatic, right? Mm-hmm. But I love this aspect in the book because it like shows that at this moment, Gandalf's like, let's trust friendship more than let's trust power. Because obviously it's the Ring of Power. So that's also something I find very powerful about it is they're carrying the Ring of Power and Elrond's thinking, okay, we need to send it like powerful elf lord or somebody who's a really good warrior. To match it. And Gandalf's like, no, I think we should probably trust it more to friendship, which is prone, like real friendship is vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting that in this moment, they choose ultimately the weakest of like the characters because they have no experience in fighting. They're tiny, literally. And instead they trust it to friendship, which is all about vulnerability and making ourselves weak to one another to ultimately make ourselves strong in the bond that's between us. So there's something kind of beautiful in that passage there that I think speaks to what friendship does for us. Mm-hmm. You know, and so, yeah, which is ultimately like no one person can complete us. Like I always tell people that in, you know, wedding homilies, like that's something that every couple hears from me is like the person sitting across from you that you're about to marry does not complete you. Mm-hmm. Only the Lord does that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the Lord can't really be invited into any one of our hearts if we're not in friendship with other people, in relationship with others. So I think it's beautiful that within the Lord of the Rings, friendship, which is ultimately about making itself vulnerable and weak to other people, is ultimately what gives the powers of good its power. Not domination, but service. Mm-hmm.
Not strength, sacrifice.
Yes, that's great. Yeah. That's a great line.
Yeah, that is a very striking thing, striking reality. There were like 3 parts of that like little paragraph that you read that kind of like stood out to me. So like the first one was when Pippin says, "We want to go with Frodo."
Yes.
Like it just again speaks to this like solidarity, which granted, again, like they didn't know how bad it was going to be. As Elrond pointed out.
Yeah.
But they had to have known it's probably not going to be easy.
Yes.
So it was just this, just this willingness to enter into these dark places with my friend. Like, of course I want to go.
Yeah.
And then like when, when Gandalf says, "It's true that if these hobbits understood the danger, they would not dare to go." Like, friendship gives us an unexpected courage in the face of danger, you know? Like, yeah. So it has that power. So it has a way different power than, what's his name, Glorfindel?
Yes.
Could have ever given them. Contributed to the friendship. And then, that last line talking about, just like this, using this powerful elf lord could have, that it's not, that what we need here is to trust in friendship, and that, it's not about the power or the strength. It's that friendship can take care of things that the strongest cannot.
Yes.
You know?
And I think it's even like, circle back what we talked about with hope, but even what we'll talk about in a future episode with providence. Mm-hmm. That's also trust in providence. Mm-hmm. You know, Now they wouldn't say like the Lord, but like for some reason they're here, and they're like willing to go.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways, that's also what friendships are like. Why has the Lord put certain people in my life, and why does he like continue to indicate that he wants them in my life? I don't know, but that's his providence, and I got to like trust, Mm-hmm. And that's like where the intentionality comes along, because they could have been like, well, you need to go back, right? Mm-hmm. But instead trusting like, no, this is what they desire, and this seems to also be what Frodo would desire. So let's leave that there. Mm-hmm. So so that's even like a trust in the Lord that he's given us the ones that we need. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To handle the day at hand. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What?
Oh, sorry. I thought you had a thought.
I did. I'm not sure where it is though.
Okay, take your time. Should I like sing something over the top while we have it for an intermission? Yeah. Or dang it, we need some advertisers so that way this could be the moment at which I start some sort of advertising campaign,
Oh,
product placement.
Yeah, like halfway through the episode.
like some YouTubers will like say, "Oh, this episode is brought to you by."
And talk about all the reasons why it's great, and you're thinking, you're lying.
Yes, they're paying you to say this.
Exactly, I don't believe you. But
I'll keep trying to find it.
What were you gonna say? Talk.
Well, I was just gonna say, and speaking of just people who are willing to give and sacrifice, once again, thank you to Julia Monin and Journeys Revealed Ministries for allowing us to use this space once again. So that's authentic. That one is very, very real. So thank you, Julia.
Very real.
You're the bomb.
Thank you, Julia. You're the bomb.com.
Bomb.com. That's right. So.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I really don't know where. Oh. Okay. So, kind of, I think you were talking about it. Yeah, you talked about it at the beginning that that none of the members of the fellowship really got much from the quest except for friendship.
Yes.
And we're just kind of talking about friendship then must be worth it.
Yes.
It must be worth the pain, the effort. And now this is where it hurts.
Sure.
Even worth the inevitable loss.
Yes.
Right? Because not that Sam and Frodo's friendship ever will be completely lost, but they will be separated forever.
Yeah.
Or for...
Not forever.
Okay. What do you know?
So Sam is actually the last person to leave the Grey Havens. After Rosie dies, he actually, because he's a ring bearer, he carried it for a very short time, but he is a ring bearer.
When he carried Frodo?
No, whenever he thought Frodo was dead.
Yes. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, good. Woo.
I thought it was all over. No.
Gosh.
Yeah. So actually he does eventually, after Rosie dies, he goes into the West as well.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but I think that it's true.
There is a loss.
We are always going to lose, at least to death. We are, sorry to get dark, but we're all going to lose each other to death eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So that's just.
So talk about that pain. Let's get into the pain.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's. Like, if they knew, even like, yeah, I believe that if they knew at the beginning that they were going to be separated from a very long time, they still would have chosen to go, because friendship has proven time and time again that it's worth it.
Yes.
And that it does much good in our own hearts and in the world, and that it's an amazing form of evangelization.
Yes.
Something I was thinking about too.
Go on.
What? You look like you have a question.
Yeah. So go on. Sorry.
I'll
come back to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure what else I was going to say.
Friendship is evangelization. Go into that.
Because it's beauty, truth, and goodness. And so it reveals the Lord. I guess authentic friendships, first of all, rooted in Christ, and that he would be our first friend. Of course, bears the fruit. And I guess the mark of evangelization, that's what it is. To be a friend of Christ is to evangelize by your life. But even in our human friendships, there's just a particular beauty to it. There's a truth in the sense, in a lot of ways, but I guess just one thing is, this encompasses the beauty, the truth, and the beauty, the true, the beautiful, the true, and the good of a friendship, but it's just the ability to stand beside someone and sorry.
No, you're doing great. Keep going.
And I guess just by your presence and by your words as well, just affirming that that someone is good and is worth being loved.
Loved, invested in, yeah.
Yeah, loved and invested in, and wasting time with,
Sure.
Is just the smallest, I must say, maybe even blurriest reflection of the way that the Lord loves us.
Yes.
So it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's true and it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was a really loud one. It wasn't really a burp. It just came from my throat.
Yeah, just a little processing the sip you just took.
Yeah, the sip I took. Much air needs to be released now for some reason. So, very clean transition into, I was going to say that is actually one of my favorite, oh my gosh, I love that document so much. So, I'm a big fan of St. Josemaria Escriva. Mm-hmm. And Opus Dei is, a movement, and they have a prelate, so they call him the father of the entire movement. Mm-hmm. And monthly, he usually releases a document that he writes to all the children of Opus Dei, so to all of his children. Mm-hmm. And November of 2019, it's amazing. It's on friendship. And he calls friendship the apostolate of Opus Dei. He's and friendship is the apostolate of everyone. He's that is the new evangelization. That's what and St. Josemaria actually said that too. That friendship is the apostolate. That's what we are about. Mm-hmm. That's how we're going to evangelize the world, and that's what they do. It's friendship is absolutely central. And so he talks about what friendship looks like and how it can lead others, because then he talks about how we can be friends with people who don't believe. He said, obviously, we probably understand pretty well how we can be friends with believers, but how are we friends with those who do not believe in our Lord? And how do we show the Lord to them through our friendship with them? Mm-hmm. And then so he talks about how, not trying to win them over to a cause, but instead by willing their good. They come to encounter the Lord and they realize we're not invested in this to get a convert or to mark one up on hey, this is how many I've got this month or whatever, but instead, because we simply love them. Mm-hmm. And that's how they come to encounter the Lord, is not by arguments or being convinced, but only convinced by the love and care that you have for them. Mm-hmm. It's like, whew, it's great.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So whenever you mentioned, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah.
Well, you know what? I think I stole it from you. I'm sure I've heard you say that before. Friendship is the new evangelization.
Well, maybe. Okay, I'll take it. Right, fine.
Accept it.
Okay, I'll accept that gift.
Okay.
From a friend. Yeah, but it's like, so yeah, it is just like such a great testimony because, and this is why I always tell people like evangelization is inefficient.
Yeah.
You know, it is so inefficient. And I don't know why like it just takes a lot of investment in people and being there for them and just like loving them. And so I think, so that's just so sorry when you said that. I was like, oh my gosh, that just sent off all those kind of things in my mind of like, yep, this is why I love St. Josemaria so much.
Why he's one of your friends.
Why he's one of my friends, and closest friends in my priesthood. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So can you explain more about why evangelization is inefficient? Just for anybody who might be like wondering what the heck does he mean by that?
So I mean that, and so often where we look at investments or whatever we kind of do in our life, we think, I put this much in, do I get that much out, right? Mm-hmm. So we treat everything like it's an equation or like something that we're like meant to get a return on. Mm-hmm. Whenever it comes to evangelization, it's like a lot of hard work. It is a lot of like investment in people who will turn away. So like, for example, my brother-in-law, his sister is a focused missionary. And I have a friend, Father Chris Komarowski, who is a focused missionary. And I know some other focused missionaries. And while there's like a particular joy in like investing individually in people and then seeing them like come to faith, there's also kind of an excruciating pain that you can see in their eyes and in their voices and just like even in their bodies, where they describe that they invested like in somebody and they still didn't want to come to the Lord. Mm-hmm. And they still didn't want to buy in more. They just kind of like ended up ignoring them altogether and like ghosting them, as the term is. Yeah. And just like pain that comes from that. And that happens like with a lot of people. So it's inefficient because we don't always get a return in the investment that we have in somebody. The love and care we put into somebody does not always mean that they're going to come to faith or that they're going to love us back, even on a human level. And so I think it's inefficient because we don't always get out of it what we put into it. Mm-hmm. Now, whenever it is returned, it's usually more than we could have ever put into it in many ways. But, you know, so obviously the Lord gives us our own consolations with that in our friendship with him. He gives us more than we could ever give to him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But he still wants our friendship. Mm-hmm. So it's an imitation of him who's given us everything and given us the greatest of friendships, and we can't possibly ever return to him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. So. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Did you have any other thoughts?
I guess you mentioned it, wanting what's like willing the good of the other, and just, Another part of Frodo and Sam's friendship that is just beautiful is when Frodo's about to leave at the end, and at first Sam is like, "You can't leave."
Yes.
But then eventually, like, he's able to recognize this is what's best for him.
Yes.
And, like, he just gives up the fight. Like, I think at first he was willing to, like, try to convince him.
Yeah.
Don't go. Yeah. He may be reluctant, but he lets him do what he needs. Mm-hmm. Which is just, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Causes him pain, but, yeah. So it's just this example of willing the good of the other even when it causes the self pain.
Yes.
Which is sacrifice.
Yeah. That's great. That's a great insight. And I think even like in that final act of friendship on Boromir's part, that he's just simply trying to defend Merry and Pippin at the expense of his own life. And even Faramir, like, you know the laws of your father. If you let them go, your life is forfeit. Then it is forfeit. It's like, whoa. Yeah, so that's just those kind of, those very intense moments of that. And even Gandalf at the bridge in Moria. Just all those self-sacrificial things. That is, like you noted earlier, like power thinks of strength. Sacrifice is ultimately what wins the day in Lord of the Rings. And that's what friendship really is at its core.
Yeah.
Further thought?
I don't think so.
Okay. You looked pensive, so.
I was just thinking that was a really good wrap-up statement.
For the whole thing?
It doesn't have to be for the whole thing.
Okay.
Just be for that section.
I gotcha.
What else you got rolling around in your brain?
Well, just the one thing that's, I guess, is one of the hardest things for me. Like, I do. I take that back. I do love helping to carry the burdens of my friends. Like, I want to be there for them. And I want to be a part of those dark places and those dark times. And I want to be able to be there for them. However, allowing myself to be a burden to my friends and to have the vulnerability, the courage to say, I need you right now is really tough. And so just that, you know, the fact that even, you know, before they meet Aragorn, like Frodo is a danger to Sam, to Merry, and to Pippin. He's a danger to every single one of them. Their lives are in danger because of him. But he has to be willing to accept their help. And again, in the book, it's like, it's much more free-willed on Merry and Pippin's part. Because like it actually does happen like it does in the movie to where Sam is eavesdropping. But then Sam ends up telling Merry and Pippin. And then Merry and Pippin decide they're going with Frodo. You know, so there is just that ultimately for the task and the burden to be unburdened, the ring, Frodo needs to allow himself to be a burden to his friends. It's like, yeah. So that's just really hard for me to do, is to, like, whenever I'm going through a difficult time, to tell my friends that, like, I need you and I can't do this without you. And this is taking your time, your energy, and maybe your peace. But to have the courage to do that is probably what, if I wanted, my guess is my friends probably want to do it for me. So that's, so just that aspect of that you see throughout, especially in Frodo's story, but I'm sure you could probably pull it out from other characters as well, that they're a burden at different times.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Why is it hard to think that, why is it hard to accept that maybe, just maybe, your friend also wants to, that's just an interesting part part of our humanity.
Yes.
That like, I want this for my friend, but it's hard for me to think that they would. Maybe not that they would want it, as you mentioned, but just that it would be worth it for them because it's going to cause them pain. But again, it is worth it. And in the words of Pippin, I want to go with Frodo.
Yes. Yes. I want to go with him.
Yeah. Yeah. That is really fascinating. Do you think it's mostly just because of, like, the effect it will have on the other person? Why it's hard to ask for help or to state that?
Yes, but also I think it has to do with, so this is kind of actually a well documented or well researched aspect of psychology, that there is, so like, first of all, it's been observed, and so then psychologists began asking themselves, like, why has this happened? That for some reason, like, if I as an individual am like prescribed a medication to help me, like half of people will like either not take it at all, like not get the prescription filled, or like begin taking it but stop taking it throughout the entirety of like the term that you're supposed to take it for as long as you're supposed to, like being responsible for themselves. However, whenever it comes to somebody being responsible for somebody else, that jumps to like 95% of people will ensure, even for their pets, will make sure that their pets like take the full dosage and when they're supposed to at all times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like in that simple little like comparison there, whenever it comes to taking care of ourselves medically, we're a lot less likely to do it. Whenever it comes to taking care of others and even animals, like we follow through and we do it. And so psychologists began asking what that's about. And it seems like what they maybe think is going on is that we understand that other people do terrible things, but we can like excuse them easier than we can excuse ourselves. So it seems like when it comes to understanding the evil that we've done, we find it harder to excuse ourselves because we know all the thoughts that have gone into it and like all the malice that's behind it. We can grant other people the benefit of the doubt, but it's hard to grant ourselves the benefit of the doubt because we know ourselves better. And so it actually, and maybe not necessarily even know ourselves better, we intuit that about ourselves. Some people can't even articulate that, but we do seem to like understand that it's like, yeah, they're bad, but you know, they've also had like a rough upbringing. They had this. It's like me, I'm just terrible. And so I think part of it's also that we don't think we're worth the investment.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Depression by Father Jared.
This month's episode is brought to you by
Yeah.
Psychology.
That
is really fascinating, though.
Yeah.
And I think that is true and a common experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that what happens with a lot of that is it's hard for, and I think, so part of it's probably recognizing each of our own dignities as children of God, as a son or daughter. And part of it's also just having the humility to say, well, these people seem to care enough, so I might as well let them do it. You know? And I think that's what I maybe even kind of recognize in darker times is like, well, at the very least, they'll finally see who I truly am. So if they want to walk away, then they finally can. You know, like that's like the dark thing, but it's still like enough to like for me to just like throw myself on it. Like it's not necessarily virtuous, but it is like, okay, fine, I'll just do it.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. That's good. Yeah.
Yay.
Yay, what a happy note to end on.
Yes.
There was
I do feel like we need to end on a happy note, so.
yeah, or happier at least.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at something, but it's not very. Yeah.
What?
Fine. So, kind of what we've been talking about. Not being able to carry the burden itself, but being able to carry the person who carries the burden.
Yes.
And just, of course, that all familiar scene in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sam and Frodo are about at the end of their strength, like lying on the side of Mount Doom. And, yeah, they're just completely spent. And, like, Frodo looks like he's dying, but Sam holds him in his lap and reminds him of beauty. He starts talking about the Shire.
Yes.
Which Frodo has completely... It has completely left his mind.
Yes. He's unable to see it.
He's unable to see it in
Experience
every way.
It, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he reminds him of goodness, and he reminds him of truth.
Yeah.
In that like darkest moment. And I just love, he says, the orchards will be in blossom and the birds will be nesting in the hazel thicket. And then he says some more, but he says, do you remember the taste of strawberries? But then Frodo is just like so honest and real and vulnerable. And he says, no. Like, oh, Sam, I can't recall the taste of food or the sound of water or the touch of grass. I'm naked in the dark. And this brings Sam to tears.
Yeah.
Because he knows how hurt Frodo is, but I think in that moment, he gets an insight into just how hurt he is. But then that gives him the drive to say, then let's destroy this thing.
Yeah. Let's be rid of it
once and for all. And then
the great music plays and he begins to carry him up the...
He begins to carry him up. Yeah. So it's just like in that moment, Sam gets a better insight into the burden that Frodo carries. And he has to accept that he cannot carry that he's powerless in taking it away. But he also knows there is still something I can do that might be able to help a little.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a little, and it's worth it. So we're going for it. Let's go. Scoop you up.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, I think we can see that in a very tactile way with the ring.
Mm-hmm.
But what's a way do you think we can see that, and maybe in practically speaking? Like, you don't have to necessarily give any specific examples, but like, how do you think we can see that even at play? Like helping, we can't carry a burden that someone's carrying, but like we can in a sense carry them, like we can bring them through that dark time. Do you have like kind of an idea of what, like a way of, is the word I'm looking for, portraying that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I guess like this is going to sound very simple because it is, but just like if someone is carrying a burden at work, for example, and like you're friends with them and like maybe you don't really have any insight into, like you don't work at the same place and you don't have any insight into what the work is like except for what they share with you. Just again being intentional and like there's nothing you can do. You can't go in and like make the boss less of a jerk.
Yes.
Or, you
Sure.
know, or you can't go in and like tell that employee or, you know, that person's coworker to stop,
Yeah.
you know, nagging on them. Or I guess you could.
Good.
But in many ways, like, yeah, you can't, you're powerless against a lot of the things that.
Yeah. Your friends endure.
Mm-hmm. But what you can do is be intentional and like give them a call.
Yeah.
Ask them to share what is hurting so that they can be known better. I think that's one of the things that, I recently kind of learned in a conversation with someone was, I was struggling with like I'm not going to get too specific, but I was struggling with like, what do I share in a situation that I was going through? But I was reminded by someone to just like, if this is something that's going to help you be better known by your friend, by someone you love, then it's probably worth sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess give them space to be known. And that in and of itself is a lifting of the burden.
Sure. That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if that's exactly what you were.
No, that's awesome. No, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. So thanks for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thanks for sharing that. I was just kind of curious. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I guess maybe to kind of end on a higher note, I think the line whenever the fellowship is leaving Lothlorien, and Galadriel tells the fellowship that as long as the fellowship remains true, hope endures. Like, that's such a great line, but it also speaks to the reality, the truth, that insofar as we remain faithful to our friends and that we trust in their faithfulness to us, that's like the only way out of the mess we're in. There's no other option. You know, we're basically like, so maybe it is a little dark, like we're backed into a corner some ways in this life. Mm-hmm. And the only way out of it is by trusting other people, you know, to use the line of a professor at seminary. We go to heaven together. You go to hell all by yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I think I just love that line because it's a reminder to us that friendship is one like a great good. Like there can be issues with attachment. Mm-hmm. But I think oftentimes that can also serve as an excuse to like keep us from being vulnerable. And also to keep us from getting hurt.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think it's something we really need to be careful of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I think, trusting in the friendships the Lord gives us is ultimately, I think, trusting in Him. Like we have to trust in His friendship that He's going to take care of us no matter what. And I think He can do that in so many ways through the friends that He gives us. Because I do love the image that after He's ascended into heaven, like Mary is there praying with the disciples and she's supporting them. And so really it's her friendship that gets them through the next 9 days while they're awaiting Pentecost. Mm-hmm. And I think you can even see it in a lot of other ways throughout the rest of the Gospels. Like I love that Barnabas, who shows up fairly often in Acts of the Apostles, but Barnabas, which means son of encouragement. I'm like, I want that title.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to be someone that's known as like the son of encouragement. Like he's so associated with encouragement that his name literally means like son of it.
Yeah.
You know, like he is born of encouragement. And it also means that he's probably encouraging himself. Mm-hmm. And so that's just, that's like one of those like little lines I'm always like,
that's awesome.
I'm waiting for that to show up because I want to preach about that at daily mass. Like unfortunately it doesn't show up, I think, in the Sunday readings, but yeah. But Barnabas, which means son of encouragement. Like, ooh, that's such a great line.
That is.
It's a great title, I mean. So,
Barney.
so what's that?
Barney. Thinking about like kids' names.
Yes.
Barnabas. Barney. Anyway.
Yeah. So I think, so just that encouragement that we can give to one another is so precious and so valuable in friendship. And I think that that's something that we have to keep in mind, is that we're all on a journey, or at least we should be on a journey. Like a friend can be one who gives you encouragement by giving you a kick in the pants and say, like, get up and like get moving. Mm-hmm. And a friend can also be the one that whenever you're like along the journey and you're like just scraping by, that's like, hey, keep going. It's going to get better. Mm-hmm. Like, I know you're tired right now. I know this is like a really steep hill. I know it's like really muddy. It's really grimy. It's really disgusting. But keep going. Mm-hmm. Like, just keep going. Keep moving forward. And like, it was encouragement, like, hey, like you stepped off the path. That's okay. Like, follow me. We're going to get back on, It's going to be okay. So that encouragement is so, so important.
Yes.
Whether it is, again, like a kick in the pants, or whether it's like encouragement to keep moving forward, or whether it's like, hey, you're kind of straying right now, but follow me. I'll show you the way back to the right way. Mm-hmm. Whatever that kind of looks like, that's ultimately, I think, in a lot of ways what friendship is encouragement. So
yeah, that's good.
That's good.
Yes. And even like the, is it the end of the first movie? When, because one of my other things about friendship is friendship encourages and affirms, as you said, but when, like, it's like Smeagol was leading Frodo and Sam, and Sam's like, do you ever think we'll be put in like those
great stories? Great second movie.
Okay, second movie. Yeah. That's a great part. And he's like, they'll be like, Frodo was really courageous, wasn't he, Dad?
Yeah.
And but then like Frodo follows it up with, you've left out one of the chief characters, Samwise the Brave.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about Sam. Like,
Frodo wouldn't have gotten far without Sam. Yeah, that's a great line. Sorry, that one always makes me like, oh my gosh, it's such a good like moment, like you said, like that encouragement.
Mm-hmm. And then like even in the movie, I think it's, of course, it's very, very beautifully depicted, because like they're just kind of like walking as they're saying this, but then like after after Frodo says, I want to hear more about Sam, like you can see his face kind of change. Yeah. Because he recognizes how much Sam means to him. Yeah. And he's like, I gotta tell him. Yeah. And so he's like, his face changes, he stops, he turns around and he looks him in the eye and says, Frodo wouldn't have gotten far without Sam. Yeah. And it's just, and Sam isn't really ready to accept that in the moment, because he's like,
but even the vulnerability to like admit that like I'm not quite ready, like I was being serious, Mr. Frodo. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like one of the top moments of like Elijah Wood's acting is like, so was I. Mm-hmm. Like this very assuring voice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. It's all around great.
Yeah. And then as he turns around, you can see like the delight in Frodo's face as he hears Sam say to himself, Samwise the Brave.
Yeah, and just a little smirk on Frodo's face is great. Yeah. And then they continue the journey.
Yes, and then they continue the journey. Yeah. As we continue ours. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. It is awesome.
Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts?
I think that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we could talk for a very long time.
Yeah, probably.
And who knows, this might have been an extended version episode.
It might be. It feels like maybe, but...
I think so.
Okay, well...
Judging by the time, yes.
Maybe next time I will actually like start the timer on my phone and have it on my lap.
Oh, that's a good call. Well, isn't it a good call? Maybe we should let it be more natural, so we'll see. Okay. Leave us a comment if you are displeased with us. Yeah. You want it shorter? You want more? Let us know. Yeah.
We'll be surprised, but...
We'll be surprised if you ask for more, but... yep, so great conversation.
Yeah, that was good.
It was.
That was enjoyable.
And thank you for every one of you for sticking with us. And we hope that you glean something from this. Hope that from this you learn to deepen your own friendships, and that you ultimately, come to trust those that the Lord puts in front of you, gives to you, whether they're close or far away, with your very self. So, and sacrifice for your friends. So, So, all right. Well,
do you want to bless?
Oh, that's right. I did promise a blessing. So yeah. So if you're sticking around just for this, I won't short you on that. So the Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
The imposition of my hands, in the intercession of Blessed Virgin Mary, Saint Joseph, Saint Josemaria, Saint Teresa of Lisieux, and all the angels and saints. And may God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Go in peace.
Thanks be to God. All right, bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Have a good evening, morning, whenever you're watching this. So
Life.